So we're continuing this study of Nagarjuna's letter to his friend King Gautamiputra. According to Mipham's outline, the whole body of the text is actually 6 perfections. And so we are currently doing the 6th perfection of wisdom. In order to follow the wisdom, it talks about the importance of developing, first of all, the right view, and then learn to do the view that you intellectually understand in meditation, and try to realize those. And to do that, one has to first find a conducive place away from all obstacles. So therefore, talking about renunciation from the world and afflictions and so on. So Nagarjuna has been going on the various things, how one should become free to discern the wisdom. You have to understand the untenable nature and unsatisfactory nature of the world and the karma and affliction controlled life. If karma and affliction controlled life is allowed to continue without any ability to stop or change, then the intellectual wisdom will not develop in the mind. So therefore, he talked about in the last week's few verses at the end, talked about how difficult it is to have a precious human rebirth, and therefore one should learn to extract its value before one's life will no longer be with us. So therefore he was counseling the king that need to have good conditions, spiritual friend, and freedom from unfavorable circumstances, which obviously the life of King Gautamiputra, and in some regards, and also in specifically also in our case, our life is also free from many unfavorable circumstances. So, having said that, then he now moves on to how to develop deep renunciation from samsara, the nature of samsara itself. So last week at the verse number 65, he briefly 65 is briefly mentioning about the general demerit of samsara, like the death and illness and old age, and the nature of samsara as a human life is concerned. So now from verse number 66, where we're going to start tonight, is elaboration of the unsatisfactory nature of samsara. Firstly, by explaining the 8 uncertainties, 8 things that are completely uncertain. So first one with verse number 66 goes to explain about the uncertainty of relationships in one's life. So people are often not taking very well when they experience uncertainty in their relationship. They think it's because of them or because of the other, or they completely over-personalize that as the kind of a curse of life. They think they don't understand it. But it is good to understand the whole nature of samsara's relationship between everyone is very, very uncertain. So therefore the verse number 66 goes to say that one's father becomes son, one's mother a wife, enemies become friend. The reverse of this also happens. Therefore, nothing at all is certain in samsara. So this is talking about life after life's uncertainty. So who knows who is who now? What we think who is who was in our past lives. So there's no certainty that your father of this life could have been a different person, have nothing close, good relationship. Or whatever you have in this present life doesn't mean that you have always have them as a father. You could have completely different. So there is no certainty. So this is talking about generally uncertainty of relationship from life to life. But of course, same is true also within one life. some people have been very long friends for many years. They were strangers to each other, and then they become friends for many years, and then they become don't want to do anything to do with it, and can't even bear each other's sight. So such is the nature of samsara. This kind of uncertainty is nature of samsara, and by knowing that, what we are able to, I suppose, we are able to accept the uncertainties of ourselves a little bit with humility, because people usually belt themselves for not having done enough good to keep something so certain. You can never be certain. Only thing that's certainty is uncertainty. So therefore, if it happens, you shouldn't wear bad blame to yourself or to somebody else, because you could say, "Oh, unlike them, look at our relationship." I'm sure sure. Right now, their life seems to like a pink and rosy, but how long it was like that? How long is it going to be like that? So therefore, one shouldn't over-personalize that oneself, but universalize. Whole idea is universalize that. And why? If you do universalize that, then you at least know that is the nature of samsara. Uncertainty of things is the nature of samsara. Look at those, some of the countries' presidents are would-be prisoners. As soon as they get out of president, they go to prison, And it's particularly most corrupt countries, isn't it? It's amazing. Just question is, and very powerful prime minister become opposition leader, and so on, So there is no certainty. So therefore, one needs to understand that. The reason for that is one shouldn't put too much attachment to something, to hold something to last long. That's what it's saying. Because if you do, you never know who that person you're so attached to in this life will be born next. So and so on. Or within this life, you never know what karma you are perpetuating. So that verse is mainly about the uncertainty of friend becoming no longer friend. Doesn't happen. People feel so sad when the friends are no longer friends. But if you know these teachings, that is the nature of existence. So many people have lost everything. Friend is minimum. They have lost everything: their house, their life, their work, their country, their whole life savings. So why we mourn about a few things that didn't go very well? So basically, everybody is experiencing uncertainty. Second is the uncertainty of that you never can be satisfied, no matter what you have. So that unsatisfactory nature of existence. And this says, each person has drunk more milk than the 4 oceans, yet still cycles as an ordinary being in samsara. Much more than that is still to be drunk, So therefore, if one doesn't develop strong renunciation from samsara, if one creates more causes to dwell in it, one will go through so many lives. It says the amount of milk we drank from every single mother we have, this from the time immemorial till now. He said that amount of milk will be far greater amount than the water of the oceans. So therefore, this is talking about if you are getting something in this life, you shouldn't think the more you get, the better it is going to be. It's a bottomless satisfaction. You can't get satisfaction by drinking or getting so many things. So therefore, one should develop a kind of a renunciation from this unsatisfactory nature, rather than that you are getting something that is unsatisfying. And as this is only a personal thing, it's the universal nature of it. So therefore, there is no certainty in anything to have lasting satisfaction. If you have satisfaction, it is only for a little while. Why we have to say this is because if you know that that's the nature of things, then at least we won't be disappointed. All disappointment comes from bigger expectation to last longer, and if you don't have a huge expectation, grasping to certainty, then you don't. If it's not a big loss, it's not a loss at all. Actually, it's a freedom, if you like. Sometimes a loss is a freedom. If you once you give up, it's a freedom. Then you no longer have to worry about that anymore. Before you were constantly worrying about it. Now you don't have it, and so you at least can move on. So if you are not satisfied over something, you wish he did this, or you wish this were like that, then I'd be happy. Oh, wait a minute, it's not like that. If that was that, you'd be whinging about something else, So there is nothing is plain sailing. Not everything is ideal, So therefore, don't ever think that it's our own particular situation is some unprecedented situation, unlike other people's or like that. No. Some people think, oh, my life isn't going very well. I wish my life was like his. But when you go to check with his, he is not satisfied about something else too. So he says, do you want to swap position? They say, no. And they realize what's really like in being in other person's shoes. So therefore, one shouldn't make too much of a deal with one's unsatisfactory situation. So that means you should accept them. As soon as you accept them, they call radical acceptance in the modern psychology. That most people are so good at rejecting, and then they're rejecting, they're wasting time. Each time reject, it some comes back. Each reject, it comes back even more. So they constantly go a vicious cycle of rejecting. If you accept something, even though it's not completely satisfactory, then you are changing already. It will change you, and then radical. What's called radical. Because if you're not able to do that, you are good at rejecting everything, and no one will be good enough for something, or no place will be ever good enough or something. It's just not possible. The desire is not fulfillable by fulfilling it. Desire is sometimes fulfilled by accepting it. That's all it's meant to be. And then lots of people, they may be not happy, and then they travel somewhere else. Then they realize how blessed their country is. It's like that. So then they realize, I live in such a good country, such a good rule of law, or security, or education, or what do you look at it, And so like that. And when we look at more personally, also people might be thinking of their particular dynamic of their personal life. They think, and then become very dissatisfied. But if you really look at carefully, its acceptance makes you see many qualities that you were about to reject. So this is very 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 important. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to change or improve your situations. It doesn't mean you don't do anything and take any initiative. But one of the biggest initiatives is not become so dissatisfied and think that is a particular thing that we only have. It's a universal nature of it. And so then the samsara, this is talking about samsara, that no certainty of relationship, no way to become ever satisfied with whatever. And then third is that you will take countless lives, so many lives, that each time you acquire a body, you think that is great. You try to look after it. You do so much, but then even that body you have to get rid of it. It says here, the heap of bones belonging to each person. Do you know how much we own? Would equal even surpass that of Mount Sumeru. Meaning that the bones that we have each life, particularly if we have been like dinosaurs or something, just imagine that will be very good. Even we all have been rats quite a lot of lifetimes. That bones will be. The earth's soil is not enough to count the number of mothers with pallets of soil the size of juniper berries. So you're talking about countless lives we have had. and number of the mothers we have had. If you think about kindness of this life's mother, and then think of you have that many kind mothers, that will surpass even the number of the pills you make out of the entire soil. So it's talking about, the reason for that is aren't you tired of being born in this world again? So therefore don't be so attached to come back to this world when it's so unsatisfactory, that you have had so many lives, that your bone will be so huge a quantity. You have so many mothers. So therefore there's no satisfaction by going to get same thing so many times. So therefore one should consider the unsatisfactory nature of samsara. So that verse actually covers two. The first two lines covers the uncertainty, or the defects of samsara, where you have to give up many lives, give up your body many times. And then the fourth one is that there are how many countless time, no matter how many bones we have shed, how many bodies we left, we have one mother on each life. And so how much pain and labor in each life, each birth, each illness would have gone through between you and each of your mothers that you had. So it's talking about the countlessness of the mothers we have had. And this also helps us to think that everybody would have been my mother. And the Nagarjuna is sort of building the argument slowly, realizing that everybody have been my mother. We just don't recognize because we change our name and body and we forgot most of the things, and therefore we don't realize this person may have been my past life's mother. Because I'm told I have as many as uncountable as pills that you can make out of the whole soil of the whole universe. So when you think of that, you will learn to restrain. I'm not going to be so ruthless towards this person, even though I feel angry about that. But this too has been my past life's mother, and how I would create another karma to be born in this vicious cycle. So then it helps us to restrain our kind of otherwise very aggressive and righteous kind of aggression that we often people feel justified to do. And then the fifth one is that the uncertainty of positions, positions. No, here, of course, Nagarjuna is talking about life after life, We know the position of people in one very life. Within a decade, the persons rise, persons fall. You just see them amazing. Whether not only in economic terms, in their social standing, their health, what they can do, what they no longer can do, is just completely uncertain. He says, even the chakra, having been chakra is the king of the desire realm. He's a god worthy of world's veneration. He falls again to earth by the force of his karma. So even the chakra in Indra, and the king of this desire realm, his days are also numbered. At least they are kings for whole life, unlike American presidents or Australian prime ministers, only 5 years. 5 years. And in America, at least you're allowed to run twice if you're lucky. But a lot of them have many reasons to fall from the first term. If they survive the second term, they'll be very lucky. The winning is almost impossible. So there's no certainty. So if there are ups and downs in your life, you shouldn't take it to be kind of a terrible thing. It's the nature of existence, whether it's your health, whether your position and influence, whether your brother likes you or don't like you, or whether you are someone who is good in terms with you or not. It's not of their choice. They also are completely whipped by the karma. Mutual karma causes everybody to lose deep, good friends in no time, and having to go with places that you least like. But, so this uncertainty is the nature of samsara. Even having been a universal monarch, he's talking about king, one becomes servants in samsara, So there's no certainty. Of course, particularly the rise and falls, amazing of power of some of the leaders of the world and countries and political powers and so on. When we think that our own, what you are able to do, what you can't do is some terrible thing, and I blundered off. No matter what you did, look at those stars, world #1 swimmers. Now they wreck their body and they're most depressed, and what is this talking about? What did they got to reach that level? That they were just suffering like hell to reach those levels, and they have no idea what's going to be like to be in that fame and then that #1 position. How untenable it is the moment you get it. So that is nature of samsara in all things. Don't ever personalize thinking it's my fault, it's because of me, because of him. It's the nature of samsara. No matter where you are, you're going to be that. One moment the person was like the ruler of the whole country. Next moment he is escaping for his life, like Saddam Hussein. He was the most powerful, and next moment he was hiding in a little rat hole or somewhere. That he can't even dare to get out in the air. It's amazing. Because the rise and falls of people's karma. In many ways, that's affecting these kind of things happening to everyone. And don't ever be surprised or shocked to see the rise and fall of whatever it is. Why? That is why samsara is so unsatisfactory. And therefore, don't create karma, if one can, to warrant another unfortunate rebirth that will bring us back into this samsara. So Nagarjuna is talking about that uncertain, this rise and falls of people in powerful positions or whatever. In terms of animals too. Some are very powerful. All of a sudden they were attacking others. One moment it was himself attacked by another, and then it's completely helpless. So one moment so powerful, another moment so weak. Yes. So don't ever think it's unique to our lives, but that is the nature of samsara. And so therefore develop an overall overview of the nature of samsara. Being that. That's the fifth one. The sixth one is that showing the entire the bliss or pleasure. People call pleasure or enjoyment in this life. And enjoyment, Buddhism, they don't use a lot of that. They think that pleasure and enjoyment is actually very, very ruinous. Very, very ruinous. They are mostly controlled by others, and likelihood for you to stay enjoying or stay having that pleasure is almost nil. So therefore, there is none of the pleasure or good things that people think they should work for are actually reliable. They're actually more cause of one's downfall. Having long experienced the pleasure of feeling the breasts and the hips of the heavenly maidens, this particularly referring to the God realms, and of course applies to human realms as well. Again, from the crushing and cutting, the piercing of devices of the hells, one must endure unbearable feelings. This is particularly referring to the God realm. Because he talked about the sufferings of the humans and so on. Now he's going to go on more in depth about the rest of the world. That the world are three realms. We call them desire realm, and then form realm and formless realm. So when he's talking about the God realm, he's talking about the desire realm gods. Desire realm God. There are 6 types of gods. He was talking just before about the downfall of chakra. So talking about suffering of chakra, and I've been applying that with human beings in a powerful position, but he's specifically mainly talking about powerful God realm beings do no longer can stay in there. The longer they enjoy the power or pleasure, that much they will suffer, because they will be indulging in them and then exhausting their contaminated karma by doing that. In the meantime, they are not able to realize that they are not God forever. and they're only God for maybe 50,000 years. But even that's not forever. It's 50,000 years, not forever. So in Buddhism, we don't deny existence of God, but there are many gods. But all of them are transient God. They are not for eternal. Desirable gods are very in terms of unimaginably pleasurable, if you really look. But they forget. They think they are enlightened. They are beyond death. And so do people believe in here. People believe on earth things that's heaven. That means eternal. But they are not eternal heaven. According to Buddhism, these are eternal, not eternal heaven. That's only for a short while. So when each of their lifespan elapses, that's what happens. So then all the good karma has been exhausted in those short-lived pleasure. And then in the meantime, they didn't do any meritorious things. Like humans are different. We can hear these things, talk about these. We could talk about life of humans or animals and so on, and show uniquely how we are. We have the mixed bag of knowing everything, and we don't have quite the same pleasure of gods. And because in many ways, not having that much pleasure of gods at least makes us know that the suffering exists. That the gods are not aware that suffering exists, and they think they are over and above sufferings and rebirth. So they're completely mistaken. And because of that, they become very indulgent in that and into their desire God. Because by definition, desire, they're constantly desiring. Sense objects, sense pleasures, and then they don't realize that pleasure is exhausting their merit, and therefore their life is come short. And when they lose that life, then they have no opportunity but to fall down into much lower realms, in the hell realms, which is coming up. It says crushing and cutting and piercing devices, and they talk of various ways and manner which the beings suffer. They have to bear through that. So that's the sixth suffering of the pleasure are basically very short-lived and no benefit. And same could be thought about everybody in the human realm also. Whatever pleasure they have, then they no longer either have the thing or they can no longer enjoy. Even though they cannot enjoy things. Their senses are all old, or their mind craving or wanting, they want it, but they cannot. Their body is so unable to do anything, let alone enjoy this pleasurable thing. So then they suffer even more, because they, like people who are attached to power, or they don't want to be dependent on anything. But even though they're dependent on having to live in nursing home, but they still don't want others to do anything by this. And so they suffer rather like the devas, just a smaller scale. So the seventh one is how one has to leave the very pleasurable, pleasant dwellings and environment where one may have completely everything so perfect, but then within very short period of time, once that one has to experience exactly the extreme opposite kind of environment. It says, having had the pleasant experience of walking on the soft slope of Mount Meru for a long time, again traversing smoldering embers and cesspools, one must experience unbearable suffering. So this is talking about the desirable gods who are really enjoying undescribable pleasure, because then the God means pleasure, and it is said that they don't even have to put any struggle. They if they want something, they get it just automatically, and so their pleasure is very easy coming, easy. They don't have to hard. And then all of a sudden, they lost all of that. They don't find any of the pleasant surrounding, comfortable surroundings, environment, or dwelling places, but instead they find themselves completely covered, stuck in a place where it's all burning lava everywhere, and they can't find anywhere. So this is talking about reverse of the actual reverse, so uncertainty. And a lot of people go through that in real life also. They used to enjoy so much power or influence or prestige or abilities, and then soon they have none. They everything is used by others who have least say on your thing, but they have power to take. And so you can never be certain how much of your own savings will be of any use to you, but they may be very much taken away the very people you least want, you yet can't do nothing. And so these are the kind of uncertainty, unreliable position or wealth wealth and surroundings and companions too. Companions. There is no certainty, and all your loved ones disappear, if not by death, slowly disappear one by one, disappearing, and all of a sudden one is surrounded by strangers, and most of them don't want to have anything to do with us, and because we have nothing to offer. We needing so much, and then we can't get anything. So therefore, so like devas, sooner or later all their sickness are like that, just smaller scale sufferings. But the devas go through so much suffering. And this goes on under the same heading. Having enjoyed being surrounded by heavenly goddesses and played in a delightfully beautiful garden, again in the realm of garden of sword-like leaves, one's arms, legs, ears, and nose will be slashed. This is talking about particular types of hell realms. And these are all direct karma, basically, but direct karma of some wrongdoing by oneself. Too much sensory enjoyment, attached to sensory enjoyment, that instead of enjoying the smell that one enjoys so much, then now nose get chopped. Ears got chopped by the various weapons, flying razor blades from everywhere, and cuts them. And these are graphically, basically displayed in Singapore in a place called Tiger Balm Garden. If you want to go to Singapore, you should visit Tiger Balm Garden. That's a Chinese Buddhist depiction of all these various kinds of hells. Of course, so they're very detailed, and they are very, before Buddhism spread, the hell depiction spread, I think. And hell has been very important part of most religions for whatever reason, But in Buddhism we have a much more and a different level way of looking at it. But they're all symbolic in terms of we don't need to go to those places if one is full of hatred. It's worse than being chopped off your ears and nose, isn't it? People who are hatred, people with brooding anger, they don't need their ears chopped off. Their heart is burning from a fire they started by themselves, So when such hate is not curtailed or dealt with, then actually it has a power to force us to actually reborn in such places where you will be in the lava but still cannot die. They say there are some creatures in the lava. They are so strange karma. They're burning, but they still cannot die. They're still suffering. And so there are such phenomena. These are not just imagination. There are such phenomena, and having entered gentle current with golden lotuses, beautiful heavenly goddess, again in the hell's river without ford, one must enter unbearably hot, salty water. So this is talking about the exact opposite of what was the surroundings like. That they may be enjoying beautiful gardens and pools and where they enjoy, but then exactly opposite. So, of course, there are specific karma. They say if you throw animals in hot water or cold water or insect, they say these are direct karma, like karma of causing oneself to be tortured, basically, exactly like similar to how one tortured others, but many thousand times more severe because of the heaviness of the karma that one creates. So that concludes the suffering of the desirem gods, mainly suffering of the desirem gods, and then it concludes by saying, having attained the extremely great joy of heaven and Brahma's bliss of non-attachment, again becoming kindling for the fire of Avicii, one must endure unceasing suffering. So this is talking about the Brahma world, the king of the god called Brahma. Brahma realm, even though it's a very, very pleasant, blissful, and is really easily confused as a kind of enlightenment. But when their merit exhaust, they cannot but find themselves falling in the lowest Avicii hell. Avicii means that there is no more to suffer. It is the suffering of all sufferings. Avicii, one must endure the suffering. Almost its lifespan is almost inestimable. It doesn't mean it is eternal either, but still it's not eternal. There's no eternal hell either in Buddhism. So that's the difference. So that neither hell nor heaven are eternal. They both exist in comparison to bliss and suffering, but they are, because they both are a result of karma. Karma is, sometime karma will be exhausted, even to get out of the hell. But sometimes the karma will be exhausted, even the most long-life God and pleasurable God, and they will come to an abrupt end, and there's no opportunity to turning back from that. So the beings who got like and then they talk about here it says, having attained the state of being the sun and moon. This is actually the Indian mythology and maybe Australian mythology too. The sun is a god. We people worship sun. Surya is the name of a god, and a moon is a god. Moon is a she. So Surya, the sun, is a male god, and the moon is a female god. She's a goddess. So it's saying here, having attained the state of being a sun and moon, and illuminated the whole world with one's body, it must be amazing to be the sun, everyone giving light to the whole world, and plants and animals and kingdoms, and giving solar power these days. Again, in the dense black darkness, one will be unable to see even one's outstretched hand. So then extreme karma was such a karma to be born as the sun and moon, but then that karma also elapses, and then one will be reborn in the realm where one can't even find one's own hand. So it's talking about extreme from situation. This is of course symbolic, symbolic, and according to Nagarjuna, this is not just symbolic, but actually happens to the particular god who is a sun. And we could say, oh, thank goodness, we hope the god sun doesn't die while we are alive. So the sun god's life is very long, by the way. It's a very long life one. But there is a time when there will be no sun. They say that the whole world will become dark again. The whole world will be not only with one sun, but there will be 7 suns, and the whole world will be incinerated by the excessive heat. This is according to that there will be nothing left that can remain, because the heat of the world is not just one sun, but 2, not just 2, 3, and the 7 suns will incinerate everything. So there is definitely talk about how the whole world will be incinerated by 7 suns, or maybe the whole climate change is 7 sun rising. Maybe not so much 7 sun, but the same sun getting hotter 7 times. We're talking about 35 degrees, so maybe it will be 70 degrees sometime later. Then will be 210 degrees, and so on. So just imagine, people say they can't sleep at night if the temperature doesn't go below 32 at night. Just imagine, if not being able to sleep is the least thing, But we will be shrink like a piece of little plastic bottles, I think, when it's becoming 2 suns. Just imagine the three suns, the bricks will melt, I think, and so on. Just talking about the inevitable end of everything. So up till this, it has been explaining mainly the suffering of the higher realms, all the God realms, human realms, and demigods been implied with that. Nothing much mentioned, and now we'll go in order to talk. Now you think that suffering of those beings up in the heavenly realms are too much, but wait until the suffering of the five other realms. So he's going to start with the hell realms. Reason for this is that the talking about hells is from one point of view is a severest suffering. But remember, when we talk about these hells, we shouldn't think only in terms of a particular realm. We can think of hell on earth. There are lots of this happening as we speak. Beings who perform evil deeds will perpetually suffer in the hells of reviving, black line, intense heat, crashing, howling, Avicii hell, and so on. So these are listing the 8 hot hells. So these are actually happening. Lots of people are terribly tortured due to their evil wrongdoing, or even not fault of their own as a result, but for some reason they are captured by ruthless people and punishing and torturing. And the top of what people went through during the World War II or World War I, how the prisoners were treated by the captors is definitely hell on earth. You can this 8 is minimum example, so we don't have to go very far. That how much suffering people go through. The torture of going through, because this is talking about reviving means they kill you, they nearly hit you so hard you're allowed to die, and then they throw cold water on you so that you regain. So the reviving is like that. Black hell is that they put lines on your body and then they try to slice one piece, and then they stop slicing that, they slice other, then they slice this part, that side revives, restores. So this karma is so heavy they don't die. It just heals back. Quite a lot of the sports people like that. They just go so hard. They broke this collarbone this time, and then they get fixed, and then go back again to get this one fixed. This is just nearly recovered, then they're going back again. Yeah.
I was wondering what the lamp of the 3 virtuous merits was.
Oh, I have jumped to that one. Because of this such ruination, take only the lamp of 3 virtuous merit. One must enter endless darkness without the light of sun or moon. So it's talking about the virtuous merits. Virtuous merits, the merits of we can talk in terms of more universally. You're talking about the three higher educations: discipline, self-discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Or you can talk about the virtues of the body, speech, and mind. So here, particularly referring to the God, reminding how to prepare oneself in such darkness, and where there is not such a light, and one should actually go to find some light. So it's reminding how not to let one's life become wasted. And beings who perform evil deeds will perpetually suffer in the hell. So I went through that. So these are different forms of torture that beings go through. Some of the people in some desert, those slaves, basically, they're very, very, very underpaid workers. This is happening these days, actually. Lots of thousands of Indonesians or whoever they can get, they're going to Dubai, the kind of wages they get is just completely not even half of it. But the kind of condition under which they have to work is undescribable. Even in this very 21st century, with all the labor laws and all the all these things happening, but number of people, how they are suffering is just unbearable. What condition they have to work, and some of them never get paid for months and months. Still, they have to work, and unbearable, unspeakable suffering. So these are 8 hot hells. Some are pressed like sesame seed, others are ground to dust like fine flour. Some are cut by saws, others are split by unbearable sharp axes. So this is talking about whatever kind of particular karma that one has caused to others are born. Hatred, they say, most of the karma of to be born in the hot hells are hatred. With hatred, people say nasty things, like pierce through people's heart, do hurtful things out of anger, do aggressive things, say harsh, say very hurtful things. And so, because whatever is hatred propelled aggression, physically injuring or hurling or hitting or whatever, or verbally slanging matches, saying harsh things, hurtful things, and these things then become multiplied by millions, and then becomes a form of actual torture and the hot hells. We're talking about here how one is pressed between like as one is pulverized under like a dust, or sliced by saws, and so on. So there are lots of terrible karma. Some, not everybody contributed, I suppose. There's lots of people constantly working in the abattoirs. Every day they are doing this. Previously, they at least used the ordinary machetes. Now there's the electrical. Just within a minute, they're cutting that kind. They're doing that all the time. So the karma of that, if you like, is not that different. Of course, these are just like in people helplessly they do these. They don't know. They're not doing out of hatred, I suppose, at least. But nevertheless, such kind of livelihood creates the karma to encounter that kind of suffering to oneself. So here is talking about, looks like frightening us, but it's actually helping us to restrain from doing harmful, hurtful, torturous activities to anyone, no matter what seems to be the problem. We just tolerate, we just forgive each other, rather than feel justified to take some amazing drastic measure as if that's going to stop. So some people are actually sent to the gallows in this very life. They don't have to go to hell, by their own, either of the crime of this life or something. They actually are. So many countries, even United States, have life. They have capital punishment, yeah. And these capital punishment are of course done differently, and they don't pulverize it. they probably just, they have very quick way of finishing the person in no time, So these are real hell on earth, Just one gun or one little injection or whatever it is. This like the whole body get completely poisoned in no time. Likewise, others are incinerated by flaming liquid of molten iron. Some are completely impaled by flaming barbed iron spears. These are the people who kill insects, sell insects, and deep fry them. and sell them in a lot of Southeast Asia is all like that. All these coastal cities and towns, they forgot they're Buddhist. They forgot they're Christians. Their whole livelihood is just serving deep fried insects and tiny fish. Miserable fish. There's not even a size of some big butterfly. They wouldn't mind, but they all deep fry. And of course, the suffering of the hell beings is not unlike the cause. It is identical to the cause of the karma one create. So it's talking about how to meditate on these things and then think how fortunate life that we have and not create any direct karma intentionally that is causing the incineration, the deep frying, the cutting, the piercing, the shooting, and the fishing. That's for fun or something. People think they're recreation or something. It was a stupid thing. The poor fish is swimming and they put a wire hook on the mouth. They think it's recreation. It's deluded. Most of the karma created out of ignorance. They don't realize that fish has a baby, that fish has a mother and a family too. They don't remember. They don't have sensitivity to think like that, and they think it's some kind of recreation. They think it's good to do once every fortnight, and people don't realize that that is life, and that has a direct result, and karma. Some, ripped by fierce dogs with iron fangs, wave their arms to the sky. Others are helplessly packed by ravens with sharp iron beaks and unbearable claws. So this is talking about various experiences people have. Picking on people is like this. Picking on people. All small things, and they criticize them. Then when we die, we will be picked. It's just karma becomes multiplied many, many thousand times, many thousand times if they are not purified. Some writhe screaming and are eaten by various worms and beetles and tens of thousands of black flesh flies, the touch of which cause unbearable sores. So this is talking about the all kinds of varieties of hot hell and minor hot hells that beings go through by as a result of various karmas that one is actually creating. Karma created against human is one thing. Karma created against helpless animals, another. Karma created against helpless insects also have sufferings, and so they are not sort of created by God for us to play or anything like that. In Buddhism, we don't say that. There are no insects, no sentient beings are created for that, but they too have been our past mothers. They too have a life, right to live, and therefore one should take great precaution. And this is talking about precaution, how not to get carried away in using one's power over helpless insects, and maybe they are somewhere in your area living, and then don't feel justified that we can just destroy them. Find a way, if possible, to reduce their prosperity, reduce their prosperity, so that don't let them spread or breed quickly. Try to dissuade them from doing that, and don't just feel you should do that. So in the end, they also are part of the community of beings that live on this earth. And therefore, one must be careful and take precaution from causing any kind of extreme suffering to other sentient beings. Because just because they're small doesn't mean that we have power to do whatever we like. What can we do to not having to do that, but try to divert them somewhere? If people are not ignoring these things and do whatever they can because they're powerful and they have things to do with it. They can buy things, they can destroy things. So the karma of that, the suffering that is implored, the suffering that is enforced on other helpless sentient beings multiplies many times, and will be born, will have to face consequently, inevitably, basically, inevitably. So in this way of understanding the sufferings of the hot hells, this particularly hot hells, thus whether Yeah, or he doesn't go in great details on the cold hells, but they are actually, there may be environment, maybe not hot, maybe very cold, like Antarctica, and but there's not a single piece of cloth to cover. Yet one has a very helpless kind of a body, and which feels very cold, and the whole body become covered in blisters, and then slowly the blisters also burst, and one's body is basically covered with oozing blisters, but yet every time you put your feet on the ice, it sticks, most of it on the ice, and most of it comes out. And then as soon as you lift, then again it revives. So there are unimaginable sufferings. If we don't have all these clothings that people go in Antarctica, if you don't have clothing, we will probably freeze in no moment, Because we have so many clothing and to protect ourselves, people can go there as still to explore and enjoy and skiing or whatever it is. But the actual environment itself is just unimaginably difficult for anybody's body, that to cope with that. When they talk about the environment of hell realms in the cold hell, it is the whole environment is like that. There's not a single piece of cloth to be found. And then one is surrounded by ice and frozen glaciers everywhere. There's not a single part of the land or black piece of cloth or to be perceived. It's all cold. So yet the sentient being's karma is so heavy, and that they don't die, and they live long life. They live long for thousand years in that kind of situation. And such hell rebirth is also, cold hell is also out of hatred. But some people, out of hate, they do harsh, directly aggressive things. Some people's hate is with hate they do very cold, cause the very kind of actually very cold feeling towards each other, and then that makes other person. So that longer you keep that resentment with which you show the coldness towards each other, that is slowly going to be the kind of like the suffering we cause, similar sufferings we will experience. Some are caused by very aggressive, hot, heated activities, so punishment and heating. Others are long but torturous, cold feeling, cold-blooded they call it, and with a lot of resentment and anger, and try to cause harm and injury to the other by sheer length of enmity that one keeps towards somebody is similar to that, because still is hatred, because hatred could be very cold, It could be very aggressive and harmful and destructive, but it could be also kept very long and very, very tortuously. So therefore, Nagarjuna is talking to the King Gautamiputra, try to dissuade giving rise to hatred, and not let that hatred to brood in oneself, because if you don't, the hatred is cause of hell. Not only in next life, in this. People who are angry over whatever small issues or big issues, they're not happy. They got everything, but they're not sleeping well. They can't taste food good. They can't enjoy anything. They can't stay still, because they're burning inside. So they have the ice inside, basically, yeah. So what's the point of wearing jacket outside when inside is very cold? So people not be cold from the cold weather, They cold from their own enmity and total carelessness, and not having any warm feeling towards others, warm thoughts, and just choose to hold that you got some many reasons why you have to be cold to the person, as if 10 days ago, and since then you're just getting colder and colder, And that's where a lot of people's suffering comes from, their vulnerability to not knowing they are causing hell to themselves. And yet they think the other one is the one who caused me to be angry, and therefore we got a million reasons to keep it going. So here is, no, it's not like that. We have to understand this is actually partially caused by ourselves. And if we are skillful to think along these teachings, then we can thaw the heat, thaw this coldness to, and then defreeze it, defrost the heat by developing kindness, remembering this must be my past life's mother or father. This will be. How can I dare do this? When you start thinking like that, then you start to drop your argument and blame about them or the particular issues about which we are so cold and angry about. So important because people like Nagarjuna is of course using this to send to the king, and he's not teaching psychologically. These days we can describe these things psychologically. Psychologically, people realize that if you're very cold to somebody, it's worse than the hell, because at least hell is not here, but the coldness is already there. The coldness towards your mother, for instance. Some people don't walk; they don't want to go near somebody, and it's out of their arrogance. Out of their own hatred, they're feeling so cold towards somebody. And that is basically the cause, and the result is this. And Nagarjuna is telling his friend all the results. All the results, all the results. People in powerful position, you have no idea how much of the hate and this goes on. There's so much struggle just to stay in power, to push the other one away, and how much kind of enmity and scheming and planning to cause harm and injury and downfall to others are people unhesitatingly trying to scheme and try to plan, try to seek help from others who are in the same kind of bad associate, and they team up to do these things, to harm somebody, to injure somebody, to bring somebody down. These are the action, the karma. These are the result. These are the actions that produce this kind of rebirth. That's what really Nagarjuna is saying. His purpose is try to, out of compassion, saying, these are the results of karmas. They are causes for being born in these things. Do you know how you're treating your subject? Do you know how you're treating your prisoners? Do you know how you're treating the minister who's in jail? So maybe that's what it's talking. Nagarjuna is telling to his king friend. King is doing all sorts of things, but he doesn't know what his powerful position. He can torture them. He can lock them up. All these things. But he's saying, look, these are the results that you're going to have if you are not careful of the action you do. In many ways, of course, we are not kings, but quite a lot of people over something, towards some people, they hold this anger in so many months, years, as they got so many good reasons to be rewarded sometime later. They don't realize how much each day of their life or weeks or months subsequent to that is a hell. Is a hell. It's not that they don't have clothes, they feel cold. It's not that they don't have electric blanket, they feel cold. They're cold from within. So people don't realize the psychology of suffering. The cause of the human physical sufferings once upon a time were created in the mind. So the King Gautami type individuals exist in each of us. Because we think we have justifiable reason to be cold and angry and negligent and disrespectful and careless and hurtful and aggressive to somebody. We do that when we are not in our good space. The reason when we read the Dharma and we listen to the teachings and like we're doing, and then we realize, I'm going to cause this. If I'm going to think like this, this is like an indirect cause of hell sometime soon. So I must not give rise to these thoughts. Do not keep these thoughts in an ill intention or anger or hurt anymore, and then quickly learn to practice forgiveness and so on. We're talking about the importance of practicing the Dharma, practicing mindfulness, practicing compassion, and forgiveness, all of these things we do. We human beings can listen to this teaching. Now, if he sent this book to the Deva realm, firstly, it wouldn't get there because Australia Post doesn't deliver letters in the Deva realm, you know. You can't send this Nagarjuna letter to the Deva realm and someone can read and others come to listen every Tuesday. They don't do that sort of thing. They're too indulging in into their particular forms. They have too many interesting things happening. Who wanted to do that? So therefore, our human rebirth, in many ways, is a fortunate form because at least we have some reasoning in comparison to human realm and hell being animals and God realms, and some are a little beyond our imagination. They seem like fantastically difficult to believe, but nevertheless, we know that on a kind of small level there are hells on this very earth, even in a human realm, you know, we might think. But some people, life is hell, you know. You have no idea of what goes on into those Manus Island, you know, detention center. The word says it all, detention center. These are human beings. You know, their house was bombed in the war. And the whole village was truly displaced. And as a result of that, they are escaping to those very countries, which indirectly is somewhat related to these problems. And yet, when they arrive here, we put them in the detention centers and treat them like they have done the worst things to the whole humanity. We don't know actually what has caused these people to get this far in the first place. So humans are actually doing the very causes to others to live like hell. That's why they are rioting. That's why they are protesting. They don't want to be treated like that. And even though in comparison to many other countries, they're still supposed to be a lot better. But nobody likes to be treated in that way. Those people who gone through like that a couple of months or a couple of years, their life had been completely ruined. And all this, even those people, you know, who are soldiers, you know, who are soldiers, military people, and they think they chose an amazing career, and they do, you know, it's a very well paid and very respected, and there's a lot of honor there, and sure. But the moment they go to the battleground, and even after a couple of months, they return home completely wrecked. What they heard and seen, what they do is they went on hell in uniform. And when they return, and they're not the same person again. They couldn't believe that what human beings do to each other for whatever. And they cannot regain their human conscience. They just feel totally wrecked, physically, emotionally. You know, some people may be physically injured, but that is not injury. Main injury is the heart. It totally makes them all needing constant help until they're dead, until they die. So, this is hell we're talking about. We're not talking about some hell's down thousands of meters below earth. I'm sure we can prevent ourselves going there. Stay here. But you look at all these places, what we call them superpowers. What are superpowers? They are hell managers. They are the one who caused the biggest hell. Some of the most fearful, powerful establishment are owned and run by superpowers. And innocent people are just treated like ants. And they have no power, the freedom to live peacefully in their own country. They're driven from their own land. They're not allowed to cross the border to go in a safe place in other countries. So, who is doing that? Not the long-beaked bird picking on us. Not the hell being hell. These are supposed to be people who have studied strategy. They have studied strategy. They got degrees in security, intelligence. What are they doing the intelligence with? That. So when we talk about some people find it very difficult to listen to their teachings on hell. I don't find it difficult at all, because we are doing more than the hell description to each other by humans to humans. And how would the beings are treated in terrible places? You can almost imagine what people could do. But even civilized 21st century people, how they treat like this, and still not realizing what is the cause of the instability. It's all our greed and aggression and violence, and then try to punish each other. And you can see this international conflicts. It's just like the moment people hear the gun. Look at Syria. It's just like incinerated. Whole country is now basically just pulverized by bullets. Who's shooting by them, their own people, to each other, just because of hatred from one group to another. One powerful person so greedily not giving. So it's all come from hatred, greed and hatred. Greed and hatred is the cause of hell. We're not talking about weapons. We're talking about greed and hatred. The money for greed and hatred, money for distraction, to punish each other, so much money. Money for health care, money for actual caring for people, very limited. So that shows that how unsatisfactory the world is. I mean, during Nagarjuna's time, I don't think there was that much big budget for military and all that. They probably were using slingshot and arrows and hurling rocks at each other, and not much sophisticated military warfare at all. Now, when you look at the military warfare, all the weapons that are produced and sold and that are manufactured, you can see, what are they doing this for? Who they want to kill? For what? So these are all symbol of uncontrolled hatred. That's the whole thing we're talking about. The uncontrolled, uncontained hatred, and for greed, for power, and then manifested in these explosive, destructive weapons, and use it to threaten, use it to gain and stay in power, and to punish those weak ones with that. So these are very basically what we're talking about. We shouldn't think, this the Christian and the Buddhist teaching talks about hells, and we shouldn't believe in this. But they're just simply using these as a device to create positive fear for the result of causes that they have ability to stop. That we have ability to stop. If we become mindful like this internally, what does this hell mean, this all hatred? I should really make sure that I don't go to bed while keeping a hateful, angry mind of the day into the night. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do some meditation or prayer and get rid of hate. And otherwise it is torture. It forces people to do harmful, destructive things when they don't contain their own ill will and hatred, and so then we know what this letter is, what this Nagarjuna's letter is. We don't see it as a kind of litany of description of hell beings and talking about. We're talking about the kind of the toll of hatred. We're talking about not about hell. We're talking about toll of hatred, toll of resentment, toll of anger and frustration and aggression to make the other suffer because we think they did something completely unforgivable thing they did, and then the other one does think they can do anything they like, and therefore mutually goes in this vicious cycle. And so therefore one mustn't interpret these teachings as a thing on hell. It's a thing on hatred. We're talking about the hell is the result, cause is hatred. causes hatred, It's like fire is small. Hatred doesn't look like that. But slowly it actually brings the real nightmare and sleeplessness and tasteless of food, unenjoyability of everything you have. People are so unsettled, they really don't like to live because there's so much anger in themselves. They don't realize that these negative emotions are called destructive because it is totally destroying their own peace of mind. And hence they can't appreciate the simple things they have because it has totally havoked their own psychology of happiness. They don't know the cause of happiness. And because of that, they don't know the cause of their own misery is hatred, but yet they are whipping just that. So when Nagarjuna talks about the graphic physical torture of each of these hells, we mustn't look far. We mustn't look, this is unnecessary. Can't we move on to a nicer topic? Because the cause of these hellish thoughts are often not far from being dropped. It's people still, they think they have to pick up reason to be angry over that, about him, about that, and they think they got some valid reason to be angry. And they even get a friend to help them to become angry. And so on. So that's why it is important to, there's a teaching usually teaches us to see things. It shows us, it may be talking about hell, but it's talking about hatred, the cause of it. If there is no relevance to us, we are not in hell. We are in the human realm, we are in Australia. We can say that, isn't it? But it is the cause of hell are created in people in living in pleasurable places without realizing they are causing it, Over a small issue, they think they have good reason to be angry. And they think they're talking as they're so angry. They think they got tons of reason to be angry. And other one who listens to it thinks the same. Okay, you're angry, I'll help you. And then you get force. Now you got reinforcement. As if so much can be achieved by that kind of camaraderie, only to cause mutual destruction, only to cause huge damage to oneself. No harm could ever be caused by, no matter how much we think somebody did, than by our own hatred. And that's why Shantideva says elsewhere, says instead of trying to contain or stop the world, I should contain my mind. I should try to change my mind from turning, instead of being hateful, I should try to cover my mind and make it into peace. So that's why often anger is such a destructive and very, very inflammatory kind of cause for taking wrong actions and reactions. And that is exactly what self-torturing here. That's exactly what the suffering of hell is consummated. So we will stop there. Any comments on hells? Usually the teachings have the hell at the very beginning. See, Nagarjuna doesn't do that. He keeps it toward the second half of the text. Elsewhere says that if you feel uncomfortable hearing about the hells, what must be like to actually experience them? Yet beings are not aware. They are creating some of the actual experiences if they're not very kind. So therefore, one shouldn't feel, this is too much, we don't need to talk about this. Why should they? Just because we even dare to hear it and think about it, it frightens us. What must be like to actually feel it even on our own body? Even for a little while, even for one prick, we don't want to get injected. If their suffering is like that, but hatred or the cause of it, people don't hesitate. They think, they say, please stop being angry. It's too much. You should say that to yourself. And people don't do that when they hate. They think they got millions of reasons to stay angry, you know. Yeah.
If you know two people who are very angry at each other, but they don't see this negative effect, what can you do?
As a third person, first we have to meditate every day that majority of the sentient beings do not know that they are causing mutual harm. But when most people who are angry to each other, they usually think they are still got a good reason to be angry and make the world free of such people. They want the world a wonderful place by destroying this person, so that the rest of the world can be very peaceful and absent of people like him. Therefore, they justify to take the anger to each other, and they usually it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous, and people feel inspired. Yes, we will do that. We have to get rid of it, and then they justify going and creating alliances and to go to war because they think the other one should be stopped at all cost. So we should always meditate, even if you don't know two people so angry like that. There are lots of people who are angry like that. Most sentient beings are totally ignorant that what they're angry at is going to cause themselves more harm than any kind of good reason that people think they are angry about. Because some people are angry because they think most people who are angry think they have good reason to be angry. They never think they got a bad reason to be angry. Yes?
This is the area that I have the biggest struggle with Buddhism, because I find, and you actually bring up a topic that makes me very angry tonight, is that I call them concentration camps that my tax-paying money pays for, you know. So it does make me angry. I do want to work with people to stop people being put into detention. So it's like those bigger picture angers and injustices that you need to fight, that I feel I need to fight for, and I don't see where I get really confused in Buddhism about whether there's any place for doing that or not. You know, whether that is not just another form of anger but to sit back and do nothing seems wrong too.
Sure. Of course, that's true. Whether it's a compassion action or whether it's what may look like angry outwardly, if they are both accompanied by wisdom, then there is justifiable use of expressing anger, but with the wisdom. Actually, compassion is anger could be motivated by compassion as well, but often not with wisdom. So people, when they all have good motivation to feel that they shouldn't do this, but the moment they express the anger, it actually doesn't do anything to improve the situation. Only one feels justified to express their anger, and therefore the actual aim that they wish to do doesn't get fulfilled. And that is, when you know this is what we were talking before, that's unsatisfiable. No matter what you did, you'll never be satisfied that you took so much action, and you will still be rewarded later. You know, Nelson Mandela thought he could stay in jail and he'd be free, but he felt that no matter what action he took all those years, I'm sure he would have thought many times, and whether, without any spirituality, he was thinking rightly for the cause of his people. And nobody would hesitate him doing the right thing, particularly now. But if you were sort of the dominant white people in South Africa in those years, you probably will think he's a terrorist. He's a terrorist. So, and they were calling him terrorist, isn't it? But after all the things that he really sat there, and the day he was really released from jail, he said he's not free unless he unshackled himself of his hatred. So even though his action may have feel useful maybe, but we never know what is that. It's a collective karma, I suppose. He just happened to be the spotlight from which who's kind of releasing or becoming president again seems to be like a wonderful celebration. Maybe his anger was all repaid type of thing. But we mustn't be misled by such temptation, saying that we will be rewarded if we took our anger in action. If we have wisdom and skillfulness and the power and influence they can do. In Buddhism, we have a thing called fierce compassion. Fierce compassion. With fierce compassion, meaning when you develop wisdom, that you may use the what I call form of a blackmail, a threat, fiercely. But deep down, you have no intention to harm, or and only to extract a good response from them that you otherwise wouldn't get them doing. So for that kind of fierce compassion, skillfulness is called skillfulness. Then there may be, we have wrathful Buddhas. We have very, very ferocious wrathful Buddhas. And the idea of that is that there's those, all the wrathful Buddhas are peaceful Buddhas. But most people look of the deities, they frighten them, And so the whole idea is that if you don't have the wisdom, our wrath and anger only destroys us more and do very little for the cause. So, is not doing anything is the answer? No, not doing anything is not the answer. Skillfulness of tolerance. If you practice tolerance, is not considered to be not doing anything. Tolerance achieves much more than any retaliation would have you. But the motivation of tolerance shouldn't be, I'm better than them. I don't retaliate. Look, they're still angry. They're doing also. I'm not retaliating. See, I'm better. If that's the motivation, then even tolerance is destructive, really no good. But if tolerance done for mutual purposes, the person's action is totally harmful, but I have no answer to quell them due to my own karma and affliction, and they're already angry and deluded as they are. If I take this action, it's not going to take me anywhere. But instead, if I practice tolerance to exhaust their karma as well as my karma to the situation, then that's why tolerance is a virtue and retaliation is not. And retaliation only causes more people for both sides destroyed. Tolerance side, maybe one side is looking like a weak, but actually it teaches much more value in not wasting any life or property in the mutual destruction. If those people who really realize that mutual destruction is no good, one of the two has to. We are angry about it, but when we realize what we're angry at, no people are angry about a cause unless they have a specific desire. So they say no good anger is caused by other than desire. So we want our way. So we are basically suffering the result of our desire. And when our wishes are not fulfilled, we will be angry. And so therefore, only way to stop the suffering is reduce our desire. So reducing our desire to be winner or to have our way means that we have to practice tolerance. If we practice tolerance with the right wisdom, then when we see the other people, what they are doing is a object of pity and compassion, not of animosity. If animosity makes us to take any action, it's only going to do more harm. But any act of kind motivation, like they talk about a case of one bodhisattva who realized he can save 500 people because he's so angry if this guy was allowed to kill all the 500 people, and then he feels that this person will carry all the heavy karma of killing 500 people. So instead he says, if I kill him instead, at least the karma of killing one person will be ripened on me. These 500 people will be saved. So in such case, that person, took the action of destroying one person's life to save 500 people. If one is skillful and wise in knowing one's motivation and intent, and actually knowing that you can do the job, so it's not a job, but he had to do it. He had to do the dirty job, And if one has such intention, then it's a different matter. Often only you have to be fairly very well evolved bodhisattva, isn't it? to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that worries me, because how can you perfectly know the future? So, like, you might think he's going to kill 500 people, but what if he doesn't, or what if?
Of course, if
differently?
you know that he is not going to kill 500 people, you wouldn't kill one. That's pretty much, yeah. So you wouldn't kill anyone in the first place. So that's the bodhisattva's. His mind is he doesn't want to kill anybody. He knew he was going to kill. So that is the story of the bodhisattva captain, and he knew that this giant will kill his 500 merchants and take all the jewelries and so forth. So he knew the intention. But if one doesn't know, of course, yeah, often people, yeah, this famous murder case in South Africa is like that, isn't it? You know, he thinks he's shooting an intruder. He's shot because he thinks he's an intruder in his bathroom. You know. Now whether he knew it was an intruder, or whether it's the very person that he had actually killed, you know. So how is karma is going to weigh that? It's a very very difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. And so often we have to be check with our conscience, I suppose, to take the action of killing somebody. Of course, you. And so that is a really hypothetical example shown, that the case where you might justify taking some actions instead of staying quiet and ignore it, as is not none of your. Lots of people choose to do that, by the way, and because then they don't have the courage, or they don't have the wisdom, let alone skillfulness, and they rather just watch and don't want to be bothered to bother, you know. And others might feel if they call bravery, some people have to do the bravest thing that nobody willing to do, and so if they have the both wisdom and intention, the correct intention, their heart is very clear about that, and if they have to be very quick in taking such actions, you can't also think too long over it, and then think, I think I'll ask my friend for a few days and that sort of thing. This doesn't quite work. By that time, it's too late, you know. So yeah, it's it probably this case of being patient is misunderstood by society as being weak and not doing anything. If one who understands the law of karma, you know, and then if one's being patient is not sign of weakness, but maybe sign of strength. His Holiness Dalai Lama says that all the time, is that tolerance is not a sign of weakness. And a lot of people practice tolerance because they are weaker, so they don't want to, you know, rock the boat, so to speak. But their intention is totally bad, you know. But your intention is really, really good, then you don't regard as your weakness, but it is the perpetrator or other person is such in a situation. You have to practice compassion. You have to practice tolerance with them. You don't practice tolerance with no one. You practice tolerance with someone who is pressing your wrong buttons. The people who are pressing the right button, we don't have to practice tolerance. So we never get to practice tolerance because it's too, you know, there's never a day that is appropriate or never a cause for which we can practice tolerance. If so, that's why the tolerance is a very difficult virtue. They say that there's no greater virtue than that of tolerance, even in the asceticism, they say. Even you practice asceticism, you know, you hold a vigil and do all sorts of things, walk miles across the country for this cause, that cause. If you practice tolerance, really contain your hatred out of compassion, there's no great merit. So even Nelson Mandela when he did stay in the prison for long, and he really believed in the cause. And in the meantime, he and ANC couldn't do enough destruction to the country. They have a good cause for which they have, and then he was put into jail and so forth by as a result of enduring the punishment or hardship that he endured, and then it paid off. And so tolerance is a virtue from that point of view, you know. I'm sure His Holiness Dalai Lama, same, you know. And Gandhi, same. And even every one of you have Gandhi in us. There's a little Gandhi in us. There's a potential Gandhi in us, you know. If you practice it, you will find, you know, it's the being able to bear hardships with someone who's really difficult that actually, you know, is far more meaningful to overcome one's own neuroses than defeat other people. This defeating the inner foe is far more win than defeating the external enemy, you know. And that's why, I mean, I'm sure that Mandela in the prison did a lot of contemplation. He said he is not feel free unless he unshackle himself of hatred. So he realized it's not the enemy that can free him, but his own hatred, you know. And then really you can see he hardly served very long for president. He was human. He humanly passed it to his own people quickly. So you can see the man has grown a lot in the prison, in the practice of patience, because he had no choice. But his captors were so powerful, he couldn't do nothing. And so, tolerance does have a huge merit. Even we say that in Tibetan Buddhism, like Milarepa is the one saint. You know, his whole sheer perseverance and tolerance of the hardships of the mountain and the cold and whatever hardship he went through, he reached the highest height of enlightenment, whereas others not. You know, so the hardships are not valued for good reasons. If we really value, all the good things come from bearing big hardships. And conquering hatred is probably the hardest thing to do than any conquering of any, you know, not even Mount Everest. It's hard to conquer. Sherpas will help you to pull you up to get on top of the mountain. For the hatred, there is no Sherpa can pull you up. That we have to understand ourselves, the merit of it, and then truly discover love and kindness and the merit of practicing that. So, thank you for that. We'll now conclude here.